Hi everybody on YouTube, it's Ask the Young One. Today I wanted to do a video on not being alone in this journey, in this path that we have all kind of found ourselves, or at some point found ourselves in. The ultimate goal is to heal and to be able to move forward and be able to live in a life of happiness and joy and abundance and what we actually came to this earth to live, and to not go through the chaos, the world that is dominated by negative emotions. And many of us have found ourselves in those situations. So a question that comes up in coaching and on YouTube and on Facebook and other places that I tend to find myself in is, so many people are so happy to feel that they're not alone, and so many people felt like they are alone, because it's when you start going, or you get into the early stages of finding out what you're about to experience, you really do feel extremely alone. So I wanted to point out just how unalone we really are in this basically narcissistic epidemic. Granted, some of these things have to do with sociopaths and psychopaths, and some would say borderline personality disorder. Either way, cluster B personality disorder is an epidemic in this, not just this country, but in this world. There's other parts of the world that may not tend to necessarily see the cluster B as much, but they still deal with the toxic drama that originally infuses these personality disorders. So with that, I'm going to point out some of the things that recently I can use kind of as an example for me, how I see things. This is just through my lens. Now you might see it a little bit different. You might say, yeah, I can understand that, or however it works for you. But this is what I see. When I see the news, and I'm not a political person, but when I see the news and I see so much going on with the hashtag Me Too, and you see all these people, the Matt Lauers, the Harvey Weinsteins, the Roy Moores, the Kevin Spaceys, the amount of accusations that are coming out is just tremendous, that people are shifting in awareness to the point that they're no longer going to stand for this type of behavior. And this behavior is coming from people that are driven through power, control, and domination. Well, when it comes to narcissists, power, control, and domination are some of the top three things that make them click. So that's one example of where this narcissism purge is coming, in a sense. And then you start adding the pedophilia that is now starting to become exposed through different places. Hollywood's starting to expose it. Different other avenues are starting to expose it. And one thing when it comes to that, it's like, not all narcissists are sexual predators, but you can almost guarantee that sexual predators are all probably narcissists or psychopaths or sociopaths. So that, and again, that is tied into that narcissism purge that's happening with this earth. Then you add in the millions of people that are in marriages that are starting to awaken with the clicks and conscious that things just aren't right, things aren't feeling right. Their guts are starting to turn because their intuition is speaking to them. And now you get all of these other people just in general that are beginning to become completely aware of the illusion that they've been living in, and it's opening up so much for people. I mean, there's so many people waking up to these things, not just in the Hollywood part, but that's a good start. Now I know there's millions of people like you and me that you never get seen for the abuse that we were dealt. So when it comes to people feeling like they're alone in these things, all you have to do is look around, and it's becoming just enormous. It's an enormous purge, basically, is what I'm calling it. It's generations of generations that are starting to come out, and people are awakening to these things. People are starting to see the traumas that and the cycles that that it's all running in, and those of us that are able to are beginning to start healing our own selves. We're starting to find these things, and as we heal, we're awakening to the bigger masses of that darkness, and we're no longer tolerating those things. So now we're speaking up on this abuse. We're no longer staying silent to this abuse. And it's on a really, really large scale right now. It's on a huge scale, and it's worldwide. It's not just here in the United States. This epidemic is everywhere. Inner child trauma is a massive, massive problem, and this comes from the generations and generations before, whether they created a narcissist or whether they created someone that was codependent, that fell into the narc traps, and now we're finally working and digging our ways out of it. It's a huge, huge problem, and we are the ones that are rising up to change these things, to bring more compassion, to light up that darkness that has been trying to continue this world in a chaos. And it's changing, because if it wasn't, you wouldn't see everything that you're seeing. There's too much of it becoming put out in the open for everyone to see. And it's all tied into the same realm, the same structure. And it goes to lots of other things. I mean, parental alienation. When you tie in all the parents that are being dealt with that, domestic abuse, where the one spouse has got the anger problem to the point where they have to use physical harm on the person that they supposedly love to inflict their power, to inflict their control. They do these things because they feel like that's their only way to have control. But when it goes back to the parental alienation, again, it's all tied into the power and control, to the domination, to dominate another person, to feel that they have control. It's all tied into the same things, all of those things. So if you're at work and you've been through a narcissistic relationship, and you got the person sitting next to you, and they're discussing how their ex-spouse is denying them their children, and they're not letting them see their children, and they're creating chaos and drama if they try to see their children, and they're fighting them and everything, and then their children are suddenly not wanting to see them, and all these things, that's parental alienation. That's signs of it that are going on. That person may not realize they're actually they may not realize they're actually dealing with a cluster B or a narcissist in the other parent. They may have never saw it in the early stages of that relationship, but that and to be able to understand what could have happened, and like why that's happening, why that parental alienation is happening now, because in the early phases they probably had no idea of what they were dealing with. just like almost all of us. We had no idea until suddenly, aha, suddenly we started becoming awakened through our experiences with these people, through the pain and the trauma, and just everything starts coming up, and we are healing from it. We're not staying and dwelling on it, because when we start speaking up on it, that's the first step to healing, is to start speaking up and beginning to take care of ourselves first and foremost, so that we can then stay stronger for other people. But that's I just wanted to talk about that, and just let people know. I mean, there's probably like 60 million. I think I heard on Quinn talk about it in one of his videos, where there's almost 60 million people that are abused by narcissists. And so, I mean, you were far from alone. And I would recommend to anyone, I mean, there's a ton of channels. Create your own channel. Tell your story. Whatever it is, you can tell it. You're not alone in this fight. You're not alone in this battle. It may feel like you are, because you are on your own front lines, just like every other person is. But there's so much going on, and there's so much stuff tied, and it's all tied to the same stuff. It's all tied to narcissism. It's all tied to some very deep, fucked up personality disorders that really have to start being dealt with on another level. I don't even know that level at this point, other than continuing to heal, continuing to bring it to surface, continuing to raise conscious, raise your own self-love, and start being the light for everybody else. If that's maybe the only way it changes, and we purge the darkness completely out, that may be how humanity has to heal themselves. But I wanted to do a video and just kind of bring in some of it, because it's really, to me, it's all tied together. And again, what I was saying is, create your own channel, create and talk, create and tell your story. Because I guarantee you, I mean, that's one of the best places to get your story out there and to begin to heal, things. I mean, there's some really, really, really good channels out there, and a lot of knowledge. And if I had my way, we would put a sign on them, and everywhere you went, you would see what they were, until they decided to change. Because that's the other thing, they're not going to change. The only way they're going to change is when we force them to see themselves in that mirror. So, and even then, they may not change, but that's down the road. That's not in this moment. So I just wanted to let you know that you're not alone, and if really look at this world and the things that are happening in it, and be cautious as you go through this process. I mean, be cautious with people. Ask questions. Use your own discernment. A lot of us probably didn't even know what discernment was until we started healing and started raising our own awareness to our own self, and realizing we actually have these free wills within us to make choices that are good for us, that we don't have to please people all the time. We can say no to things. We don't have to violate our own self to please another person. If we don't want to do it, we don't have to do it. We have choices. And part of it is realizing we have choices. So, and you have, the more voices that we get, the more people telling their stories is only going to raise the awareness of this whole epidemic that is out there. So if you ever have questions, just let me know. And again, I'll go for now. And just remember, you're not alone in this fight, and it will succumb to the goodness at some point. It will happen, and it's going to happen in every aspect, whether it's the predators, whether it's just the abusers, whether it's the physical abusers, whether it's the parental alienators, these people that inflict these pains and these harms and this abuse on people, it will get seen at some point. It has to. So I wanted to make a video and speak my piece on that. Again, everything's coming from the heart, and I hope everybody's doing well. And if you're up north or wherever in the U.S. that has a lot of snow, I hope you're staying warm. And until next time, namaste.